Have you ever wondered about how to make a pinafore jumpsuit? Well, you are at the right channel because in this video, I'll be teaching you how to draft a pinafore jumpsuit from scratch. But first, let me start by introducing myself. Hi, my name is Lillian of Lillian Fashion Lounge, and in this channel, I talk about everything fashion, pattern drafting, tutorials, online and physical classes, and many more. So, let's get started. To get our pinafore jumpsuit, we are going to first get our basic trouser, and to get it, we are going to be measuring 1 inch down from the tip of our paper, and that is going to automatically be our waistline. So after getting our waistline, the next thing I'm going to be getting is the hip line. So my hip line is 10 inches. So I'm going to be measuring 10 inches from the waistline, and I'm going to mark it across my paper. After getting my hip line, the next one I'm going to be getting is my crotch. Now my crotch is 11.5 or 12 inches, so I'm going to be using 12 inches for this pattern. So after getting my crotch, the next thing I'm going to be getting is my knee line. So for to get my knee line, I'm just going to measure from the waist, and wherever I stop, my knee line is 26. So I'm just going to measure 26 from the waist and mark. So after getting my knee line, the next one I'm going to be getting is my border line, which is going to be from the tip of the paper. So I'm going to be measuring 5 inches from the tip of my paper towards the other side of the paper. I'm going to measure 5 inches. Now, these 5 inches I'm measuring it depending on how big your hip is. If you are a very big person on the lower part of your body, please, you can use up to 8 inches. But for this, I'm going to be using 5 inches. But 8 inches is the highest that you can use. So after measuring my border line, all my measurements are going to be after my border line. The only measurement that is going to be inside the border line is the crotch. So I'm going to proceed with my waist measurement. Now, to get my waist on paper, I'm going to be dividing my waist measurement plus ease divided by 4. So I'm going to be, whatever I get, I'm going to measure it. My waist is 33. I'm going to be dividing it by 4. Then I'm going to add ease. 33 as 34. Then I'll divide it by whatever I get. I'm going to mark it. Now, if you decide to add your darts, you are going to add it after you have measured your waist line. So after adding it, then you now divide your waist measurement by 2. Then add your darts on each side of the waist, of the midpoint of your waist. So I'm going to go ahead and measure my hip, also divided by 4. I'll hip plus ease divided by 4. Then I'm going to mark it. So to get our crease line, you can also call it fold line, you're going to divide your hip by 2. So whatever you get, you're going to measure it on the crotch line, and you mark it towards the hemline. Now don't forget that in this pattern, my pattern, I didn't draft to the hem, and that is because of the space of my table. So I'm going to be joining into the hem at the end of this video, before the end of this video. So whatever I get, I'm going to mark it as seen. Then to get my knee measurement, you're going to measure your knee circumference minus 1 divided by 4. So whatever you get, you are going to measure it on each side of the crease line. both on the knee and on the hem. So I'm just going to go ahead and join it as seen. Then we're going to move to getting our crotch curve. Now to get our crotch curve, you're going to divide your hip minus ease by 4 and multiply it by 0.15. So whatever you are getting, you measure it on the crotch line in the border line. So you measure it on the crotch line, then you measure it on the border line. Then you're going to connect it as seen with a slant line. So in order to get the middle of the slant line, you're going to divide the slant line by 2. Then you mark it. Then you connect it with a slant line also. So on that slant line, you're going to measure 0.75. So after getting your 0.75, you will go ahead. If you are going to be using, if your trouser is going to have a front zip, this one is not going to have, but just for drafting purposes, I'm going to go ahead and do that. I'm going to measure 2 inches on the waist, then I'll connect it as seen, and also connect the curve as seen. So our front trouser pattern is ready. Now I'm going to go ahead and draft my pocket. Now to get the pocket, you can decide to use 5 inches, you can decide to use 4 inches, but here I'm using 4 inches. And here, as you can see, I use a straight line, but you can decide to use a curved line. So I after getting it, then from that 4 inches, you're going to measure 2 inches for the pocket, the inner pocket. Then you're going to come up from your hip by 1 inch. You can decide to use your hip measurement also, but I didn't want to use my hip measurement, so I measured 1 inch from my hip line and I connected it as seen. So this is going to serve as our pocket pattern. So here, as you can see, I've gone ahead to join the extra for the remaining measurement of the hem. So I'm going to transfer the measurement, which is the border line, the knee line, the crease line or fold line. Then I'm going to connect it. Then I'm going to be using my hem line. So my hem line is 43, which is the trouser length. So I'm going to be using that here. So I'm going to go ahead and measure my crease line. So I'm going to measure my crease line on both sides of the fold of the crease. I'm going to be measuring my knee measurement on both sides of the crease line. Then after doing that, I'm going to connect it as seen. So our full trouser is ready. So this is going to serve as our front trouser pattern. Now for pattern drafting, you're going to be using your front trouser pattern to get your back trouser pattern. So that is what we are going to be doing now. Now for the back, the first thing that we're going to be doing is to get our waist for the back. Now for the waist, the waist pattern for the front and for the back is different. So for the back, we're going to come up by 1 inch on the waist and come in by 1 inch on the waist. Then you connect it back to the side, just as you can see me do here. So after doing that, on the crotch line, I'm going to come down by 1/2 inch. Now this 1/2 inch, the crotch line for the front and the crotch line for the back is different. That is why we are coming down by 1/2 inch. So I'm going to be labeling it here, the crotch for the back. So after doing that, I'm going to go ahead and measure the crotch curve for the back. Now the crotch curve for the back is different for the one for the front. For the back, you're going to divide your hip minus ease by 4, then you multiply it by 0.45. For the front, we use 0.15. So whatever you get, you're going to measure it on the 1/2 inch you came down by, and you also measure it on the border line, as you can see here. Then I connected it with my slant line. Then after connecting it, I divided the slant line by 2, then connected it with a slant line also. So on that slant line, I'm going to measure 1.9 inches. So after measuring it, I'm going to connect it from that 1/2 inch we came in by on the waist and came up by. You're going to connect it to the crotch, as you can see here. So on the knee line, if you remember when we were measuring the knee line, I removed 1 inch. So that 1 inch, I'm going to be adding it back to the back. So I'm going to add 1/2 inch at each side of the knee line and the hem line. As you can see me do here, I added it back. So I'm going to be connecting it to the crotch. And also the other side, I'm going to be connecting it to the hip. So there you have it. Our trouser pattern is ready. Please, if you have any questions for me, please leave it in the comment section. I'm going to make sure to reply to answer your questions in the comments. So the next thing I'm going to be doing is to label them, because especially for beginners, if this is your first time, it is best for you to label. So when you are cutting out, you will not get confused. So after labeling it, I'm going to go ahead and place a new paper under my front pattern, which is the initial pattern I made. So I'm going to be using my tracing wheel to trace the back. I will not be tracing you can decide to trace the front, but for me, I'll be tracing the back. Whichever way goes for you, it doesn't matter. So I'm going to be tracing the back to the new paper. So after tracing it out, I'm going to be using my marker to draw out the lines. So I'm going to go ahead and cut out the excess. I'm going to cut the excess out. And please don't forget to label. Anyway, it is going to be visible. So cut out the excess. Cut out the excess paper. So for getting a jumpsuit, you are going to open up the hip side. Now this method is only for a jumpsuit. If you are sewing a trouser, please don't do this. You open up the hip area, and this is to create enough space for you to sit down. If you don't open it, if you don't slash it this way, it is not going to be comfortable for you to sit. So I'm going to be opening it up. I slashed it, as you can see here. Then I'm going to measure 2 inches. You can use 3 inches depending on how big you are on your hip area. If you are a very robust person on the hip area, you can use 3, you can use 4. So but I'm going to be using 3 inches here. So after getting my measurement, I taped it down. Then I'm going to cut out the excess. So after cutting it out, I'm going to go ahead and eliminate the pointy area of the hip, which is very important. If you don't eliminate it, after sewing, your hip area is going to be pointy, and you're going to start adjusting. In order to avoid adjusting, you have to eliminate that pointy area to give that your hip that smooth feel, that smooth shape. So I'm going to go ahead and cut out my pattern, my front pattern. Don't forget that we have already cut our back pattern. This is where I'm going to be stopping this tutorial video. I'm going to see you guys in the next one. So in the next video, we are going to be talking more about the cutting of our fabric and the sewing of the fabric. So see you guys in the next one. Bye.